I know my driveway's in pretty rough shape, but I'm gonna do a little cleanup today, mainly getting rid of all of these weeds and growth in between the cracks, and a little bit of preventative maintenance to make sure that they don't come back. They make specific tools to get into these cracks, but I'm just gonna be using this painter's tool, this multi-tool, and the sharp edge, and I'm just gonna dig into the cracks. I've also got a pretty hefty flathead screwdriver for some of these tougher weeds that are stuck between these expansion joints, just to dig those out. So I'm mostly done getting all the weeds out from the expansion joints. Not going to recommend the painter's tool. It pretty much grinded this tip down to nothing. The screwdriver held up much better, even though it is getting kind of flat here. It's still in pretty decent shape. Now I need to get rid of all this dirt and all this weeds off the driveway to see where I'm at, and after that I'll probably scrape a little bit more. Now I've got all the weeds out of the expansion joints and some of the cracks, and I've blown out a lot of the dirt with the blower, but I want to take it a step further and try and get at as much dirt out as possible. It's a very hot day today. There's no cloud cover, so this is going to dry up instantly. Now I've got the driveway pretty clean. It would have been a lot better to use a pressure washer, which is something that I don't have, and just don't think it's worth it for the work that I'm trying to accomplish. So I'm going to give this about 30 minutes to an hour to dry, however long it takes for this to dry before I move on to the next step. Next step is I'm going to spray these expansion joints inside with some Roundup to help prevent weed and grass growth. I am going to have to make another trip to Home Depot, as the expansion cracks on the top part of the driveway actually sink down to the ground. So there's about a 4-inch gap, and I'm going to have to fill that. So I will have to make another trip to Home Depot to grab some play sand, but that should give this stuff plenty of time to dry. Now I've got my play sand, and I'm just going to fill these voids up about 2 inches or so until I have like 2 inches from the crack. That way I'm not wasting all of my backer rod. I'm going to use a cheap paintbrush to smush it on in there. Now I have 3 different sizes of backer rod. I got 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 5/8. It's going to depend on how big your crack is, on what size you're going to need, and the goal is to fill the expansion joint crack up to about a 1/4 inch until it reaches the driveway. cutting the backer rod, the 3/4, cutting the 3/4 inch backer rod is definitely working the best so far. Now I've got two types of concrete fix. I've got the non-sag crack repair, which is going to be for my slopes, and I've got the self-leveling sealant, which I'll use down at the bottom of the driveway and up there at top. I might try and get away with doing it going across this way too. We'll see how it goes. Got the top crack done. I might have to go through one more time very lightly once this settles, but this was the most important part of the entire job for me anyway. Right here, I'm just going through with a very, very small amount of the self-leveling just to even out the imperfections from the non-sag concrete crack filler that I was using. So that last step with the place sand was probably completely unnecessary and will most likely wash away first rain. But the whole point of this was to stop weeds from coming up and to stop the driveway from sinking, or at least slow it down. And I think I accomplished that today. What would you have done different when resealing the expansion cracks in your driveway? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm just a amateur at all this, but I do appreciate you taking the time to watch. I'll leave a link in the description of all the tools and products that I used. I did have to make a couple of trips to Home Depot, so hopefully if you try and tackle this project on your own, you can see what I used and not have to make those extra trips like the wrong kind of play sand. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. My name's Dave. See you on the next one.